I never thought my father's voice could shatter a room like glass under a boot heel, but there it was, booming across the polished oak table at his 60th birthday dinner. Maya, you're the stain on this family's legacy, the one mistake I can't erase. 20 pairs of eyes turned on me. Forks frozen midair. Champagne flutes sweating in manicured hands. And in that split-second hush, I felt the world tilt, not with tears, but with a cold, electric fury that whispered, "Watch me burn it all down." By morning, I'd slipped away into the shadows of Chicago's underbelly, chasing a secret he'd buried deeper than his conscience. And when the evening news looped my face, not as the disgraced daughter, but as the ghost unraveling his empire, the apologies would taste like ash. That dinner was the kind of affair only old money could pull off without blinking, crystal chandeliers dripping from the ceiling like frozen tears. Waiters in starched white gliding silent as sharks through a sea of designer gowns and tailored suits. The venue was the Gold Coast Club, that relic of a bygone era where Chicago's elite came to pretend they weren't devouring each other alive. Dad, Elliot Hargrove, kingpin of Hargrove Pharmaceuticals, held court at the head of the table. His silver hair slicked back, his laugh a practiced rumble that masked the calculations ticking behind his ice-blue eyes. I'd flown in from the West Coast, where I'd been scraping by as a lab tech in some nowhere biotech startup, just to show face. Family duty. Or so I told myself. God, what a fool. The toasts had started sweet, Uncle Ray droning on about Dad's unwavering vision in turning a family pill-pushing outfit into a billion-dollar beast, complete with nods to the new Alzheimer's drug that was supposedly revolutionizing elder care. Mom, ever the porcelain doll, smiled through her third martini, her hand fluttering like a trapped bird on Dad's arm. My friends from childhood, the ones who'd scattered to Ivy Leagues and Wall Street, clapped politely when it was my turn to stand. I mumbled something about proud to carry the name, my throat tight around the lie. I'd always been the black sheep, the science nerd who questioned the corners cut in clinical trials, the one who got shipped off to boarding school after asking too many questions about Grandma's accidental overdose on one of Dad's early prototypes. Then came the cake, a towering monstrosity of fondant and gold leaf, and Dad stood, glass raised high. To 60 years of building something unbreakable, he said, his gaze sweeping the room like a searchlight. It lingered on me, and something in his eyes, pity, disdain, twisted the knife. And to the future. May it forgive our indiscretions. The room chuckled, assuming it was a nod to some boardroom skirmish. But he wasn't done. He turned fully to me, fork in hand like a scepter, and let it fly. Maya, sweetheart, if only you'd inherited a shred of that fire instead of this. He waved vaguely at me, at my thrift store dress and unstyled hair, the words landing like a slap. You're my shame, kiddo. The one experiment that failed spectacularly. The silence was a living thing, coiling around the table. Sarah Jenkins, my old sorority sister turned hedge fund princess, gasped audibly, her diamond earrings catching the light like accusations. Uncle Ray cleared his throat. Mom's smile cracked like old varnish. I sat there, heat flooding my face, the weight of 20 stares pinning me to the chair. 27 years of biting my tongue, of swallowing the rumors about Dad's donations to regulators, of ignoring the whistleblower emails I deleted in the dead of night. And for what? To be publicly vivisected at his vanity party? I didn't scream. Didn't storm out in tears. I just smiled slow, sharp. The kind of smile that says you have no idea what's coming, and raised my glass. to indiscretions.
Dad.
May they all come home to roost. A few nervous laughs rippled out, but his eyes narrowed. Just a flicker, like he'd caught a whiff of gunpowder. I excused myself early, claiming a headache, and vanished into the night, the city's pulse thrumming under my heels like a promise. By the time I hit my dingy Airbnb in Wicker Park, the fury had crystallized into something sharper: questions. Why me? Why now? Dad had always been a cold operator, ruthless in mergers, charming in depositions, but this felt personal. A purge. I cracked open my laptop, fingers flying over keys I'd taught myself to hack on in those lonely boarding school nights. Buried in the Hargrove servers, firewall bypassed with a phishing email to his assistant. Bless her lazy password habits. I found it, not just financials, but a locked folder labeled Containment. Inside, redacted psych evals from my childhood, notes on instability markers, and a single audio file timestamped the night Grandma died. I hit play, and her voice, frail, furious, filled the room. Elliot, you son of a bitch. That batch was tainted. I told you the trials were rushed. Maya's showing the signs already, the headaches, the blackouts. If you don't pull it, static, then nothing. My hand shook as I cross-referenced. Grandma's overdose had been on a pre-market beta of Neurovive, Dad's breakthrough for memory enhancement. Side effects buried in fine print: neural degradation, identity dissociation. And me? I'd been the test subject. Not by accident, but by design. He dosed me as a kid, fudging records to make it look like a playground mishap, all to prove the drug safety for FDA fast track. The betrayal hit like a freight train. I'd carried the scars, migraines that blurred reality, moments where I'd wake up staring at my hands like they weren't mine, all pinned on teen angst or poor coping, while he built an empire on my suffering. But that audio, it was leverage. Or so I thought. By dawn, my phone buzzed. Unknown number.
Maya.
We need to talk.
Dad.
He'd found the breach already. Game on. I didn't call back. Instead, I drove south to the old family estate in Indiana, the one he used for retreats, code for off-books R&D. The gate creaked open under my stolen keycard, and I slipped in like a shadow, heart pounding against my ribs. The labs were state-of-the-art, humming servers, cryogenic vaults, and in the corner, a prototype chamber I'd only heard whispers about. Project Echo, neural transference tech, Dad's pet black-budget folly. Swap consciousnesses, upload souls, sci-fi bullshit he'd chased to cheat death. Or scrutiny. The console glowed softly. Logs open. Recent test subjects. Failures marked in red. And there, at the top, subject MH. Integration 87%. Anomalous feedback loop detected.
MH.
Maya Hargrove.
Me.
They'd tried it on me months ago, during one of my blackouts after a Hargrove gala I'd crashed. Drugged wine, a quick trip to the estate, and poof, my mind yanked into a digital limbo while they probed for defects. But it hadn't taken. I'd fought back, splintering the link, waking up in my own skin with fragments of someone else's memories lodged like shrapnel, a man's life. Sharp-suited and silver-tongued. Victor Kane, Dad's right-hand fixer. The ghost who'd vanished after the Neurovive scandal broke whispers. No, not vanished, swapped. Dad had put Kane's essence into a proxy body, a nobody drifter, to dodge indictments. And in the glitch, I'd stolen a piece of him. That fragment burned now. A second voice in my skull. Kane's cunning. His Rolodex of dirt. Use it, it hissed. Turn the knife. I didn't question the ethics, hell. After what they'd done. Ethics were for suckers. I synced my neural implant, a gift from Dad's last checkup, the bastard, to the echo chamber, initiating a partial merge. Not full swap. That'd kill us both, but enough to borrow Kane's face. His voice. His access. By noon, I was him, staring at my reflection in the lab mirror, my features sharpening into his hawkish lines, my posture straightening with his predatory grace. The change was visceral, a ripple under skin like ice cracking. I tested it with a call to Dad's private line, pitching my voice low and gravelly. Boss, it's Vic. Got a lead on the whistleblower. Meet at the club. He bought it. Hook and sinker. That night, under the same chandeliers, I watched him arrive, scanning the crowd for me, the real me, who'd gone dark. I approached from the shadows, clapping a hand on his shoulder. Elliot. Long time. His head snapped around, confusion flickering before recognition dawned and died. Vic? What the hell? We buried you after the feds sniffed too close. I leaned in, close enough to smell his cologne. That same sandalwood he'd worn the night he called me his shame. Buried?
Nah.
Upgraded. And I've got questions, old man. Starting with why you fed your own kid to the machine. His face went the color of spoiled milk. We retreated to a private booth. The clubs hum a dull roar around us. He tried bluster first, paranoia. Vic. Always your Achilles, but I laid out the logs. The audio. My borrowed memories of him, signing off on my dosing. You made me a lab rat to cover your ass on Neurovive. Grandma knew. She died screaming your name. His eyes darted, calculating escapes. But the booth was soundproof. And I jammed the exits with a Kane trick, anonymous tip to security about a bomb threat, buying us time. Maya's unstable, he hissed finally. The drug. It warped her. Echo was mercy, a reset. But she fought it. Broke the link. If the board finds out, they're gonna... I cut in. My voice, his voice, steady as steel. Unless you confess.
Publicly.
The overdoses. The bribes. The kid you broke. It was controversial as hell, blackmailing your own father. Wearing a dead man's skin to do it, but the power thrummed in my veins. Kane's ruthlessness blending with my rage into something unstoppable. He laughed then, bitter and broken. You think you're her? That glitch made you a mongrel.
Maya.
Half girl, half ghost. The press will eat you alive. Maybe. But I'd take the scandal over silence. We struck a deal in the dim light. He'd leak the files anonymously. Take the fall as a rogue element, sparing the company. In return, I'd vanish, we'd vanish. Me and this borrowed soul. But as he stood to leave, promising the drop by dawn, doubt gnawed. Kane's memories whispered warnings. Elliot Hargrove doesn't lose. He pivots. I tailed him out, slipping through alleys slick with autumn rain, my borrowed height making me clumsy in heels I'd ditched for his loafers. He didn't go home. He went to the estate. I followed, the merge holding steady, pulse sinking, vision sharpening with his augmented retinas. The lab doors hissed open under his biometrics, stolen in the glitch. And there he was, not confessing, but purging. Deleting logs. melting drives with thermite charges. And worst, initiating a full echo cycle on a new subject, Mom. Strapped to the chamber. Sedated. Her vitals flatlining as his texts, loyal to the end, prepped the swap. Collateral, he muttered into his comms. Wipe the slate. Kane's back. Maya's a myth. My myth. Rage boiled over. And I lunged, tackling the nearest tech. My fists, Kane's fists, crunching bone with borrowed strength. Alarms wailed as I fought through them. 3 shadows in lab coats. Tasers crackling like fireworks. One caught me in the ribs, fire lancing my side. But I drove an elbow into his throat, Kane's street-fighting reflexes kicking in. Elliot, I roared, bursting into the chamber. He spun. Syringe in hand, some neural blocker? No doubt. You always were too sentimental.
Vic.
Or, is it Maya? Doesn't matter. He lunged, but I was faster, slamming him against the console. Sparks flew. The chamber's hum pitching to a scream as the cycle destabilized. Mom's eyes fluttered open. Wild and wrong, his eyes in her face?
No.
The swap half complete. Souls tingling like barbed wire. Stop it. I grabbed the emergency kill switch. But he was on me. Hands around my throat. His face a mask of paternal fury. You were never enough. Too weak. Too curious. I fixed you, made you useful. And you'll die useful. Black spots danced. Kane's voice fading in my head. Fight dirty. I need him hard. Ancient and vulnerable at 60. And he crumpled, gasping. The switch flipped, the chamber whined down. Mom slumping free. Her mind snapping back with a guttural cry. But the damage, oh, the damage. Echo's feedback loop lashed out, a psychic whip cracking through the merge.
Pain exploded.
Identities bleeding. My memories of playgrounds and migraines flooding with his boardrooms and betrayals. I staggered out as sirens wailed distant. Cops.
Feds.
Whoever Dad's tip had summoned. Mom in my arms. Mumbling fragments. Elliot. The girl. She knew too much.
Knew?
She'd covered for him. Dosed me with her silence. Betrayal squared. I dumped her at a ER drop-off. Anonymous. And fled north. The merge fraying like wet paper. By Gary. Indiana. It snapped, Kane's essence ebbing out, leaving me hollowed. Staring at my hands again, scarred and small. But his knowledge lingered. A poison gift. Passcodes. Ledgers. The smoking gun on Neurovive's true toll, hundreds dead or deranged. Covered by suicides. Back in Chicago. I holed up in a flop on the south side, piecing a plan from the wreckage. Controversial? Hell yes, exposing it meant torching innocents, employees, shareholders, the cure that kept elders breathing. But Dad's empire was built on my bones. Let it crumble. I started small, anonymous posts on dark web forums, seeding doubt with trial data Kane had squirreled away. Then bolder, a burner phone tip to the Chicago Tribune. Voice modulated to his gravel. Hargrove's miracle drug? It's a slow poison. Check the vaults. They bit. And the first article dropped like a grenade. Pharma giant accused of fatal cover-up in Alzheimer's breakthrough. Dad's response was swift. PR blitz. Denials in gilded pressers. But I was the ghost in the machine now. Using Kane's contacts, I hacked his jet's manifest, stranding him mid-flight for a deposition detour. Leaked emails next, him greenlighting the kid dosings, including mine. The board panicked. Stocks tanked 30% overnight. Friends from the dinner texted, "Maya? Is this you? Sarah Jenkins. WTF. Girl, ruining your own family?" I didn't reply. Let them speculate. Let them argue in comment sections. Whistleblower hero or vengeful psycho. The climax brewed in D.C., where Dad fled for war room meetings with lobbyists. I followed. Murch's echoes granting me flashes of his paranoia, nights pacing hotel suites, whiskey in hand, muttering about the girl who wouldn't stay buried. I booked adjacent, walls thin as his alibis, and waited. He cracked first, cornered by feds at a Senate hearing, sweat beading under Klieg lights as they grilled him on the vaults. "Fabrications," he thundered. But I had the kill shot, live-streamed from a proxy server. The full audio of Grandma's plea, synced with my neural scan, irrefutable proof of the tampering. My brainwaves time-stamped to the night. The room erupted, cameras flashing like gunfire. Dad's eyes found the feed, and for a heartbeat, he saw me not on screen, but in the gallery shadows. My face pale but unyielding. "Maya," he mouthed, defeat etching lines deeper than age. Security swarmed as he lunged for the exit, but the cuffs clicked before he hit the door. Controversy exploded. Headlines screaming, "Heiress sabotages dynasty versus victims reckoning inside Pharma's dark heart." Pundits debated on CNN, justice or patricide, while Mom went public. Tearful confession of complicity, begging forgiveness in rehab brochures. I slipped out amid the chaos, heading west again. The Murch's last gift a dull ache behind my eyes. But the twist? It hit in a dingy motel off I-80. Phone buzzing with an encrypted file from an unknown sender. Dad's lawyer. Or a board remnant. Inside. Not exoneration, but inversion. Echo logs. Unredacted. The swap hadn't been his idea.
Mine.
In the glitch. During that gala blackout. I'd initiated it. Kane's memories bleeding in early. My subconscious latching on. Dialing the chamber remotely via implant. Dad had covered. Thinking it a fluke. Dosing me deeper to stabilize.
Grandma?
She'd pushed the original trial, desperate for a cure to her own decline, volunteering me without consent. The betrayal? A family curse. Not his alone. Mom's silence? Protection from the truth. I was the architect. The shame self-inflicted. Nausea roiled as I stared at the motel TV. Evening news looping Dad's mugshot. My face blurred in the background as source. Hero? Monster? The comments raged. She freed us from Big Pharma. Versus. Daddy's girl gone rogue. Lock her up. I laughed. Bitter and broken. The weight of it all crashing down. No happy ending. No clean win, just a mirror cracked 3 ways. Reflecting a girl who'd swapped her soul for vengeance and found only echoes. But as the screen faded to commercial, a final call. Mom. Voice steady for once. Come home.
Maya.
We fix this. Together. Tempting. Debatable. I hung up, tossed the burner into the night, and drove on toward what I couldn't say.
Redemption?
More ruin? In America, where fortunes flip like coins and grudges fester like open wounds. Maybe the real revenge is just surviving the swap. The highway unspooled under my tires like a bad dream I couldn't wake from. Nebraska flatlands stretching endless under a sky bruised purple by twilight. I'd ditched the Prius in Iowa for a beat-up Ford pickup from some farm auction cash. No questions, its cab reeking of stale hay and regret. The radio crackled with talk shows dissecting the Hargrove fallout. Was Maya a martyr or a manipulator? Call in now. Voices piled on. A cacophony of judgment from faceless Americans who'd never tasted the bitter pill of family poison. I switched it off, letting the merch's phantom twinges fill the silence. Kane's ghost limb, itching where it used to be. 2 days out from D.C., and the high of the takedown had soured into something gnawing. That file, the twist Dad's people had slipped me, played on loop in my head. I'd triggered echo? Bullshit. My rational side snarled. I was a kid then, foggy with migraines, not some prodigy puppeteer. But the logs didn't lie, neural signatures matching mine. Timestamped to a seizure, at the gala where Dad paraded me as his rising star in pharma innovation. I'd blacked out mid-speech, waking in a guest room with a headache like God's own hangover and a vague memory of whispering commands into my implant. Swap us.
Make it right.
Right? For what? The buried secret clawed up, not just Grandma's push, but her dying plea, recorded in that audio I'd weaponized. Elliot. The girl's the key. She's showing the affinity. Let echo take the pain.
Affinity.
That's what they called it in the redacted memos, a rare neural plasticity, making some folks prime for transference. Grandma had it, passed it down like a cursed heirloom. She'd volunteered for Neurovive not as a test, but to gift it to me, her fix for the family legacy, turning suffering into superpower. Dad had twisted it, using my affinity to fast-track the drug, then echo to contain the fallout when I started glitching. Mom? She'd known. Held the syringe that first night, whispering lullabies over the burn. The betrayal wasn't one knife. It was a surgery, carving me open layer by layer. I pulled over at a roadside diner in Lincoln. Neon sign buzzing, eat like a dare. Inside, it was pure heartland, checkered floors, coffee black as sin. Truckers hunched over pie like it held the secrets of the universe. I slid into a booth, hoodie up, ordering eggs I wouldn't eat. The TV mounted above the counter looped the news. Dad's arraignment. Him stone-faced in orange. Lawyers circling like vultures. No comment on the daughter's role, the anchor intoned. But sources say Hargrove claims coercion, by his own blood. Cut to pundits, a bow-tied conservative snarling about, entitled millennials torching capitalism, a liberal prof gushing on brave truth-tellers in the shadows.
Me?
Somewhere in the middle, a Rorschach blot for their biases. A waitress with crow's feet and a name tag reading Doris refill my mug, eyeing me sideways. You look like hell.
Han.
Running from or to, I met her gaze. Kane's charm flickering unbidden.
Both.
Ever have a dad who builds you a castle on your bones? She snorted, wiping the counter. Mine built meth labs. Same diff. World chews up daughters. We spit back what we can. Her words stuck. A gritty Midwestern koan. As I slipped out a 20 and vanished into the night. Back on the road. The plan reformed, not escape, but escalation. Dad's empire might be crumbling, but the rot spread deep. Shell companies, offshore trials, politicians in pockets from Springfield to D.C. Kane's memories mapped it like a subway schematic, weak points, pressure valves. Controversial as it was, I'd hit 'em all, leak the senators' emails tying FDA approvals to campaign cash, dox the execs who'd signed off on kid dosings. But the real blade? Project Echo itself. Buried in a Nevada black site. Funded by DoD grants for enhanced interrogation uploads. If I blew that open, it'd be WikiLeaks on steroids, governments swapping spies. CEOs dodging death. All on tech born from my family's Frankenstein fever dream. I veered west, aiming for Vegas as a staging ground. Sin City fit, bright lights masking dark deals. A place where a girl with a borrowed swagger could blend. Checked into a off-strip motel, the kind with hourly rates and roaches the size of regrets. And set up shop, laptop chained to the bed frame. VPNs layered like armor. First target, Senator Harlan Graves. Dad's golf buddy who'd fast-tracked Neurovibe despite the red flags. Kane's dirt file on him was gold. Photos with lobbyists. Bank wires to Cayman accounts. I anonymized it, drip-fed to ProPublica via Tor. By morning, headlines screamed, Pharma scandal implicates top senator in safety cover-up. The backlash hit fast. Dad's PR machine, even handcuffed, spun it as disgruntled ex-employee sabotage. But fingers pointed my way, blurry gala photos resurfaced. Me mid-blackout. Eyes vacant. Online sleuths connect it. Hargrove's daughter has history of episodes. Is she the leaker? Forums lit up. Reddit threads titled Maya Hargrove, Hero or Psycho, with polls swinging 60-40 against. She's unhinged, body swap conspiracy nut. One user ranted, somehow sniffing the echo truth without proof.
Nah.
She's avenging years of abuse. Free Maya. The controversy fueled me, a dark caffeine, as I pushed harder. Next, the offshore trials. Kane's memories unlocked a server in Belize. Patient logs from volunteer clinics, mostly desperate migrants, dosed with experimental batches. Outcomes buried as natural attrition. I pulled manifests, cross-referenced with U.S. border stats, spikes in neural disorders post-treatment. Packaged it with affidavits I'd ghost-written from sources, firing it to the Times. Boom. Hargrove's global ghost network, human testing exposed. Stocks cratered further. Lawsuit snowballed. Mom called again. Voicemail trembling. Maya. Stop. He's breaking, says you'll destroy us all.
Come see him.
Please. I deleted it. But doubt crept in like fog off Lake Michigan. Destroy us all? What was left? The family photo on my phone, me at 10. Dad's arm around my shoulders. Grin wide as the lake, felt like evidence from another life. Had I always been the monster? Affinity twisting me toward this? The merch's echoes answered in Kane's drawl. Power's the only truth.
Kid.
Wield it or get wielded. But as notifications pinged, friends unfriending. Old colleagues warning you're radioactive now, the cost tallied. Isolation. Paranoia. A body aching from the half-swap's toll. Migraines flaring like warning lights. Vegas blurred into a fever. All night in scripting leaks. Burner phones discarded like shells. Takeout wrappers piling like accusations. I hit the black site next, remote hack first. Pulling schematics. Echo 2.0. Full body transfers. Military grade. With ethical overrides for unwilling subjects. Test logs showed PAL sims. Minds yanked into drones. Dad hadn't just built a drug empire, he'd franchised the soul trade. I prepped the payload. Full dump to WikiLeaks. Timed for max chaos. But mid-upload. The door splintered. Feds? Hired muscle?
No.
Worse. Uncle Ray. Dad's brother. Face twisted in that avuncular concern he'd faked since I was a kid. Maya bug, he cooed. Hands up. Two suits flanking him like bookends. Enough games. Elliot singing, partial immunity if you turn states. I backed against the wall. Laptop slamming shut. Heart jackhammering. Singing? About what? How he carved me up for stock options. Ray sighed. Theatrical. About the affinity.
How you?
Initiated. It wasn't malice.
Kid.
It was love, saving you from the pain.
Lies.
But the file backed it. And his eyes, mirrors of Dad's, held no bluff. The suits advanced. Tasers humming. Controversial choice. Fight or fold. I chose neither. Grabbed the motel, Gideon Bible. Hurled it at Ray's face, distraction, then dove for the window. Glass shattering like my resolve. I tumbled into the alley. Shards biting palms. Sirens wailing distant. Ran blind. Lungs burning. Until the strip's glow swallowed me. Slot machines chiming like mocking bells. Tourists oblivious to the ghost in their midst. Holed up in a casino bathroom. Bandaging cuts with paper towels. I finished the upload from my phone. WikiLeaks lit up. Echo chamber, US. Mindswap program exposed. The world detonated. Congressional probes. International outcry. Ethicists decrying the end of humanity. Dad's trial accelerated. Bail denied. Mom vanishing into witness protection. But Ray's words festered. It was love.
Was it?
The twist inverted everything, not just blame, but motive. Grandma hadn't volunteered me. She'd seen the monster in the mirror. The affinity that let her feel the patient's screams during trials. Echo was her escape hatch. Passed to me like a loaded gun. Dad covered to protect. Not profit. Mom's silence to shield. I'd been the fulcrum. My subconscious pulling the trigger in that blackout. Swapping slivers of cane to arm myself against the truth. Hero? I'd freed the afflicted. Toppled a titan. Villain? I'd shattered a family chasing shadows of my own making. Exhaustion hit like a truck as I slipped a final leak. My confession. Anonymized. To a indie podcaster. It started with shame. Ended with souls. Judge me if you dare. The episode dropped that night. Downloads spiking. Debates raging anew. I drove north from Vegas. Dawn painting the desert gold.
Toward.
Home, Canada, oblivion, the road curved. Endless. A question mark in asphalt. In America, revenge isn't a straight line. It's a hall of mirrors. Reflecting what you fear most. And as the radio flickered back on, my voice distorted. Defiant, echoing from the podcast. I wondered, was the swap ever over? Or had I just traded one cage for another? The Canadian border loomed like a bad decision I couldn't unmake. Those striped booths at Emerson glowing under sodium lamps. Mounties pacing with that polite menace only politeness can muster. I'd swapped the pickup for a Greyhound in Fargo. Hunkered in the back with a duffel of cash and regrets. Hood up against the prying eyes of fellow fugitives, divorcees, drifters, dreamers all fleeing their own Hargrove scandals. The bus wheezed to a halt, and as the mound aborted for passport checks, my pulse thrummed a warning. Fake ID. Fresh off the dark web. But your face is everywhere now. CNN had plastered it across the globe. Pharma princess on the lam? He stopped to my row. Flashlight beam cutting the gloom. Ma'am, documentation. I handed over the laminate. Elena Vasquez. 29. Vancouver address, praying the photo's bad dye job held. His radio crackled. A dispatch about enhanced alerts for U.S. nationals in high-profile cases. Sweat beaded. Kane's echoes supplied a bluff. Smile easy. Eyes down. Tourism. First time north. I nodded. Voice soft with fabricated prairie twang. Just need a reset. Officer. He grunted.
Stamped it. Moved on.
Relief flooded, bitter as diner coffee, as the bus lurched over the line into Manitoba's endless wheat fields. Toronto welcomed me with autumn bite, leaves carpeting Queen West like confetti from a funeral. I crashed in a shared flat in Kensington Market, artsy types. Pots smoke thick as fog. No one asking questions if you paid rent in US. Greenbacks. Posed as a freelance coder, gigging for crypto bros who didn't care about extradition treaties. Days blurred. Code by dawn. Leaks by dusk. The podcast confessions spawning a cottage industry of true crime docs and subreddit shrines. Maya mania. They called it merch.
Manifestos.
Midnight vigils outside Hargrove HQ, now a ghost tower under federal seal. Pundits pivoted, from villain to Valkyrie, America's revenge porn. I devoured it all, a voyeur to my own myth, but the hive faded fast against the grind of ghosts. Moms surfaced in fragments, tabloid shots of her leaving court, gaunt in Chanel, spilling half-truths to Barbara Walters wannabes. Maya was always special. The affinity broke her, but it made her strong. Special. That's what they'd called the migraines. The blackouts, precursors to the merge. My brain wired for wonders or woes. I dove deeper into Echo's underbelly via tour dives, declassified snippets from the Nevada site. Now raided and raised, revealing test subjects, vets with PTSD uploaded to Sims. Spies swapped into enemy assets. Ethical black hole. And at its heart, my DNA, sequenced from that childhood mishap, fueling the patents. Dad hadn't stolen my soul, I'd volunteered it, subconsciously scripting the swap to weaponize the pain. Controversy crested with the hearings, C-SPAN marathons, senators grandstanding on neural sovereignty, witnesses piled on survivors of Neurovive, faces blurred, voices raw. It stole my husband, left him staring at walls, not knowing his name. One, a Latina mom from the Belize clinics, clutched a photo of her dose daughter. They called it hope. It was hunger. My leaks had freed them, voices amplified. But guilt gnawed. Those volunteers included kids. Affinities scouted like talent, funneled into the machine. Had I been the template? The file whispered yes, Grandma's notes. Maya's the bridge. Let her cross. I pushed back. Controversial to the core. A deepfake vid. Kane's face morphed over mine, confessing to the board's bribes. Dropped it on 4chan. Watched it virally mutate into proof of my innocence, or insanity. Feds issued warrants. Interpol alerts. But Canada stonewalled, citing political asylum vibes. Friends? Sarah Jenkins Med. Maya. If it's you, stop. Dad's dying in lockup. Cancer.
Fast.
Says to tell you. He always knew you'd win.
Win?
I laughed into the void, the flat's walls closing like the chamber's hum. Nights brought the merged revenge, dreams where I was Kane, brokering Dad's deals in smoke-filled dens, then snapping back as Maya, kid self screaming in the trial bed. Woke sweating, implant scar throbbing, a dime-sized puck under my collarbone. Dad's monitor turned Trojan horse. I clawed at it once, mirror lit in the bathroom, but the skin knit tight, neural fibers woven deep. Part of you now, Kane's echo mocked. The swap's permanent. Solitude sharpened the edges, market falafel with strangers who eyed my American accent like a bomb. Walks along the lake where freighters hooted mournful, mirroring my drift. The climax brewed not in fire, but frost, a subpoena smuggled via diplomatic pouch. Mom's lawyer pleading. Testify.
End it.
Dad's trial loomed. Appeals exhausted. The judge a no-nonsense type who'd grilled Watergate ghosts. Testify? Air the family laundry on live TV. Affinity and all? Controversial as nuking the narrative. Hero's return or Judas kiss. I booked a flight to O'Hare. One way. Heart a war drum. Touchdown in Chicago's chill. The city a palimpsest of scars. Gold Coast Club shuttered. Hargrove Tower scaffolded like a corpse. Court was a circus. Protesters chanting justice for the swapped versus. Suits hissing, corporate killer. I slipped in back row. Incognito in wig and glasses. As Dad shuffled in gaunt. Chemo bald. The king dethroned.
His eyes scanned.
Found mine through the crowd. And something cracked. Not rage. But relief. Maya, he mouthed. The word a lifeline. The prosecution tore in. Ledgers. Audios. My leaks woven into a noose. Mr. Hargrove. Did you authorize dosing of minors? Including your daughter? He stared at the stand. Voice a rasp.
I
protected her. The affinity, it was a gift. She chose the path. Chaos erupted, objection. Sustained, but the seed planted. My turn came unbidden. Bailiff calling, Maya Elise Hargrove, like a summons from hell. I stood, shedding the disguise. The room gasping as cameras whirred. Up close. Dad looked small. Human tube snaking from his arm. Eyes wet. Tell them, he whispered as I took the stand. The truth. Your truth. The judge leaned in. MS. Hargrove. Are you here to corroborate or contradict? I swallowed. The merge's chorus swelling. Lie. Free him. Free yourself. But the words spilled raw. The blackouts. The swaps pull. Grandma's ghost in the machine. He covered for me. I pulled the trigger subconsciously.
Yeah.
But mine. The shame? It was mutual. Gasps rippled. Twitter imploded mid-testimony. Cross-exam shredded me. So, you admit orchestrating the leaks? Endangering lives?
Yeah.
Controversial. Catastrophic. Execs suicided. Families bankrupted in the fallout. But as I stepped down, Dad reached through the rail. Hand trembling on mine. Proud.
Kid.
Finally. Cancer or cuffs. He was going down. But the twist inverted again. His confession docs. Slipped to me post-hearing. Revealed Mom as the architect. Her affinity. Hidden. Driving the family mad science. She dosed Grandma to share the burden. Then me to continue. Dad? The patsy. The protector. Calling me shame to shield me from her claws. I bolted post-verdict. Guilty on lesser counts. House arrest for health. Heading to the estate one last time. Mom waited on the porch. Tea steaming. Face serene as a saint's. You saw the files.
Statement.
Not question. I nodded. Fury reigniting. You started it. The swaps. The souls, your hunger. She smiled. Sad and sharp. Affinity's a curse. Maya. I thought sharing lightened it. But it multiplies. We talked till dawn, confessions cascading. Her hand on mine cool as the chamber's steel. No blows. No blood. Just words. Weaving the web tighter. As sun crested, I left her there. The estate's labs gutted ghosts. Drove east. Not north toward the Atlantic. A ferry to somewhere uncharted. The news chased. Hargrove matriarch implicated in soul swap saga. Debates eternal. Mothers as monsters? Or mothers as mirrors? Ending? No tidy bow. Dad lingered in hospice. Mom in shadows. Me adrift with echoes. Revenge's aftertaste is ambiguity. A debatable draft that lingers. In America's grand, grim theater, we all swap roles eventually. And when the curtain falls, who's to say who won? The ferry cut through fog like a dull knife. Atlantic swells rocking the deck as seagulls wheeled overhead, their cries mocking the static on my smuggled radio. I'd chosen Newfoundland, jagged cliffs, salt winds, a nowhere corner of the empire where accents thickened and extradition felt like a fairy tale. Posed as a grad student researching folklore and identity, renting a fisherman's cottage in Twillingate, icebergs calving in the bay like frozen regrets. Days were salt-rhymed routines, lobster traps with locals who spun yarns of shipwrecks and selkies. Nights hunched over a notebook, untangling the merge's last threads, Kane's cynicism curdling into my caution. The affinity humming like a low-grade fever. Backlash from the trial crested in waves, headlines shipping across the pond. Soul swap siren surrenders secrets. Hargrove heiress claims maternal mind games. Mom's exposure hit hardest, arrested quiet in the night. Her tearful perp walk a masterclass in manufactured sympathy. I only wanted to connect, she cooed to cameras, eyes dewy, spinning the affinity as a mother's telepathy gone awry. Pundits aided, Fox calling her tragic innovator. MSNBC calculated crone. Dad passed mid-appeal. Obituary framing him as pharma pioneer felled by family feud. His final letter to me smuggled via Ray. Forgive the stage.
Kid.
You stole the show.
Stole?
Or scripted. The cottage smelled of peat and possibility. A far cry from Chicago's concrete cage. Neighbors, rugged folk with hands like oak, knew me as May, the quiet yank with a knack for fixing outboard motors, Kane's grease monkey youth bleeding through. Over cod suppers. They'd pry gentle. Heard you're from the States. Big news there. That mind swap mess. I'd nod.
Vague.
Letting them fill blanks with their own ghosts. Lost sons to oil rigs. Wives to mysteries of the mind. One night. Over screeching fiddle music at the pub. Old Tom O'Reilly, scarred from a nom draft dodge, clapped my shoulder. Revenge is a codfish. Lass, eats its own tail. Best gut it quick. Wisdom. Whiskey-soaked, but it stuck. I tried normalcy. Hikes along the bluff paths. Sketchpad capturing ice flows in charcoal strokes. Therapy via grainy Zoom with a Halifax shrink who specialized in transference trauma. The swap, she probed. Was it violation or volition? Volition. The log screamed, my subconscious dialing echo. Affinity latching onto Kane like a lifeline. But violation layered it. Mom's syringe. Dad's cover. The family's Frankenstein fever. Sessions unearthed more. Buried memories of Grandma's games, her hands on my temples during story time, whispering neural nursery rhymes that primed the pump. The secret? Not one crime, but a chain, generations swapping burdens. Me the link that snapped. Controversy followed like a shadow. A BBC doc crew sniffed my trail, offering your side in exchange for footage. I met them in a St. John's Cafe. Fogged windows beating like tears. Why run? The director pressed. Mic hot. I leaned in, voice steady. Not running. Rewriting. The twist isn't who did it, it's why we let it happen. Affinity's just the excuse. Power's the addiction. They aired it edited. Me a brooding oracle. Sparking transatlantic debates, TED Talks on ethical echoes, ethicists in The Guardian wailing, the death of the self. Protests popped in Toronto, banned the brain trade, while Wall Street whispered of echo knockoffs, black market swaps for the ultra-rich. Mom's trial streamed live, a spectacle of silver hair and sobbed alibis. She took the stand in pearls, voice quavering. Maya inherited it, the gift. She chose to wield it, to punish us for loving too hard. Lies wrapped in lace. But the jury bought the half, manslaughter reduced. House arrest with therapeutic monitoring. Ray called post-verdict. She's out.
My.
Wants you home. The estate's yours now, clean slate.
Clean?
The labs were ash. But the vaults hummed with residuals, prototype implants, affinity serums. Temptation tugged, swap back the pain, gift it to the world or weaponize it anew. I waited on the bluffs. Wind whipping like accusations. The sea a churning mirror. Controversial decision. Burn it or build. Flash to the merge score. Kane's last gasp. Build.
Kid.
Empires rise on ruins. But Maya's voice, small and scarred,
Countered. Burn. Be done.
Dawn broke cold. Decision crystallizing. A final leak. Full specs to open source hackers. Echo for all, the manifesto read. Not for profit. But people, cure the curses. Swap the chains. Uploaded from a satellite phone. It ricocheted global. Coders in Berlin cracking it for prosthetics. Activists in Nairobi for trauma uploads.
Chaos.
Yes, hacks on hackers. Bans in Brussels. But seeds of something debatable. Salvation or Pandora's reboot. The world responded in roar. UN resolutions. Startup booms. My name mythologized anew. Maya the Maker. Headlines hummed. Polls flipping to 70% hero. Friends resurfaced Sarah. Proud.
Bitch.
Dinner when you're not infamous? Even the podcaster. Sequel EP? Your twist killed me. I laughed. First real one in months. Mailing postcards from May. Twists are endless.
Stay tuned.
Ending? No tragedy's dirge or comedy's caper, just a quiet cusp. Mom wrote once. Letter scented with her Chanel ghosts. You freed us. Darling. Now free yourself. I burned it on the hearth. Ashes swirling up the flue like released souls. Winters passed in Twillingate, storms battering the panes. Affinity fading to a whisper. The merge a scar, not a storm. Locals dragged me to Kaylee's. Fiddles wailing of lost loves and found lands. And in the real, I glimpsed it. Not revenge's ash, but renewal's spark. America called distant. A continent of what-ifs. Testify again? Reclaim the name? But here, on the edge, I chose the debatable middle. Live the questions. Swap no more. As spring thawed the bay, icebergs melting to myth, I stepped onto the wharf, sketchpad tucked under arm, ready for whatever reflection the water threw back. In the grand, grim swap of lives, maybe the real hook isn't the fall, it's the float. And damn if it didn't feel like flying.